I shall introduce our next speaker of today's session. Juana is the founder and CEO of Tacit Growth Strategies, also simply referred to as TGS, a global impact investment and PMO firm. TGS is a preferred authorized training partner of the world's leading association for project management professionals, PMI, and offers a robust portfolio of consulting and training to educators, non-profit leaders, and other categories of project management professionals throughout the world. The Guana's book, Master Grant Writing, A Project Manager's Guide, is an international bestseller and has been lauded as a comprehensive guide that demonstrates how to build and maintain a successful business. She's the Director General for Global Alliance of Angel Investor and Venture Capital Networks. Today, she will discuss her expertise with us on impact leadership and the Agile PMO by Juana Chambers Lawson, founder, Tacit Growth Strategies, United States. Hand over the stage to you, Juana.
Thank you, Dawn. We are no longer an authorized training partner of the Project Management Institute, but we are a member of their speakers bureau. So we just kind of transformed our relationship there. But thank you so much for
no problem.
Thank you so much for that awesome introduction. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that we can kick off our lovely discussion today of impact leadership in the Agile PMO. I also have a video that I wanted to share, but I don't know if it's going to come through properly, so I'll just leave it and put it in the chat box for people to watch at a later time. So today our presentation is going to be about the Agile PMO and really thinking about what impact leadership is in the context of project management offices. So thank you all for joining us today. Here's a little bit about me. Again, as Dawn was saying before, Tacit Growth Strategies, we are a global project management office, meaning that we are serving in a consultative role to multiple project-based organizations located all over the world. So we've got clientele from Canada, the West Indies, and several other places in which we're helping them basically solve some of their most complex challenges, solve them with global thinking, but a very local implementation and local feel. So we are a grant writing firm as well. We have some contracts with government entities, the nation's leading government agencies, I should say, philanthropic foundations, and high impact nonprofit organizations. Now, my name is again, Juana Chambers Lawson. I go by the PMO CEO because as most of you know, project management, unfortunately, is still not as well appreciated and understood as we would like it to be 30 years later. But we are still very much in our nascency as a lexicon. So part of my job as a university lecturer and adjunct professor is to teach young professionals what the significance is of project management and Agile as a culture, more so than a methodology. So I like to, give people breakdowns, very practical applications of project management. We look at things like if you pull up your Agile practice guide, which I tend to keep with me whenever I go and consult. There is a section, it's on page 91 if you have this. If you are a nerd and you like to read, I definitely recommend you go ahead and pick up the Agile practice guide. At the page 91, you'll see a table, and the table is entitled Application of Agile in the PMBOK Guide Knowledge Areas. And so what it does is it actually breaks down by section how Agile can be practically applied each of those knowledge areas in project management. So those are the types of things I like to do because it helps to bring efficiency and effectiveness to organizations. Now, a little bit more about my personal background. As Dawn was sharing, I did accept the appointment of Director General for our Global Alliance of Angel Investor and Venture Capital Networks earlier this year. It feels like it was last year, but it wasn't that long ago. And I have been really intent about trying to bring together as many angel investors and venture capital networks as I can. One of the foremost angel investor venture capital networks that I have here locally to where I am, which is in San Antonio, Texas, is the Trinity University Venture Mentor Program. Now, this is a MIT sister program. So we are able to sort of pick up a lot of the best practices from MIT as an institution, which, as you could tell, has definitely led to a lot of good success for our ventures here that do attend the Trinity University that's situated right here in San Antonio, Texas. Now, we do have alumni that are also ventures within this program. So you have people like Daniel Lubetsky, who is the owner of the Kind bars. You've probably seen him on Shark Tank. He's commonly one of the guest investors that comes onto Shark Tank. He is actually an alumni at Trinity University. So you have a lot of really prominent alumni that come out of this university. So as you can imagine, the Venture Mentor program is exceptional. And then there's a lot of opportunity for students to get venture capital, get in front of venture capitalists and angel investors on a more frequent basis. So it is an honor and pleasure to be a mentor in that capacity there. But as you can see from my other experiences, I'm able to really pour into a lot of different facets of our community here in San Antonio, throughout the state of Texas and abroad. So one of the things that I do like to say about project management and being a project management office is that it equips us to be able to package a lot of our lessons learned and bring those into different contexts. So as you can see with some of our nonprofits like the South Alamo Regional Alliance for the Homeless, Sarah, that is the HUD, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. They often give grants. They award grants to different nonprofits and housing service providers throughout the nation. And normally what they do to make sure that they are equitably and inclusively awarding those grants, they assign a pass-through entity. And so for us here in Bexar County, city of San Antonio, our continuum of care system is actually led by the South Alamo Regional Alliance for the Homeless. So as you can imagine, it is a very, very huge undertaking to be in this capacity and to be in support of all of these wonderful service providers who are all working collectively to try to eliminate the issue of poverty and homelessness truly here in Bexar County, city of San Antonio. So I could go on and on and on about a lot of my experiences, and what I like to share about some of these experiences is just how transformative it is to be able to apply project management in these many different capacities. So let's talk about the problem. What we expect from leaders often does not align with what we hire or employ them to do. This is often going to be the problem with most of our organizations, especially those that are project-based. And so what you find is that the value, the true value, the inherent, or I should say intrinsic value of having an agile project management office becomes more conspicuous. The agile project management office does not supplement in the way of a contractor. The agile project management office supplants in the role of a consultant. And so what a lot of work that we do for our organizations, our organizational partners, is we like to come in and be able to essentially guide them through how to best navigate, how to solve the problems that they have. So some of our commonly expressed expectations when we do hire people to do the work, that we have a palpable vision for achieving the organization's mission. We create a sense of urgency in the accomplishment of organizational goals, and we embody and embrace the change that we're looking to see. But those more tacit expectations, or those expectations that are not going to be expressed verbally or in writing, they're going to be expressed really in the scowl during the daily retrospective, or the lack of feedback that people might experience when they're looking to get some sort of constructive feedback on how they're doing, and get the look around the room and people have nothing to say. Now we're talking about those tacit expectations, right? Things that you will not know in an express way. So these are things like, and other duties as assigned. They hopefully drive exponential financial gains for the organization to ensure a sustainable future. And run lean. We're always expected to run lean, but generate considerably large returns. Those returns we normally measure in terms of financial goals, operational goals, strategic partnerships, etc. Now, a quick observation as it relates to strategic partnerships, because I'm actually in the process now of grading capstone presentations with my grad students at Our Lady of the Lake University here. One of my students had a wonderful paper, a research paper on cross-sector partnerships. And one of the things I took away from her research that I think is very applicable and resonant here today is, as it relates to strategic partnerships, you have to be thinking about how you define collaboration. What are we collaborating with? What resources are we bringing together? And how are we planning to bring those resources together? You also need to be considering how we're going to be able to define success from this particular collaboration, the strategic partnership. What makes this partnership strategic, right? So the assumption or the inference of strategic partnerships is that you have some sort of strategic goals in place. And a lot of our organizations, you'll find even, some of our major cities here in the country that have housing authorities don't actually have strategic plans. So how can you have a strategic partnership if you don't have strategic plans, right? So I think a lot of times we throw around terminology that sounds excellent on the surface, but in actuality, because we don't have any common or shared language, we miss a lot of learning that could be shared in those situations. So make sure, I say all that to say this, make sure as leaders that we are not just making these tacit sort of expectations of people and not stating up front what it is where we're coming from. Tell people where you're coming from. In hip hop, we say speak plain, speak plainly. So that way people can challenge you. And the challenge is not personal. The challenge is always on a level of trying to reach consensus and trying to reach shared understanding. Because I try to walk around these days with different books, like I was referencing before, the Agile Practice Guide. I try to walk around with different books because you really do need a glossary. Back in the day, we used to have dictionaries. And now we don't have a dictionary in print anymore. We'll refer to Merriam-Webster or whatnot on our phone. But you really do have to, take it back to the fundamentals when you're communicating with your people, especially across sectors. So we cannot have strategic partnerships again without the understanding of at least some sort of shared glossary or terminology. The nomenclature matters, right? So again, the problem. From an expected deliverable standpoint, we normally, when we hire our consultants, our contractors, our staff people, we're expecting exponential growth. We're expecting them to be resourceful. We're expecting them to do more with less, efficiency. And we're expecting them to have some level of political savviness, right? Now, the political savviness is really going to be dependent upon your industry. But for me, in our industry, political savviness could be something as simple as, when we're going after a grant opportunity, the client knowing that they should not reach out to that point of contact without talking to their PMO first. Something as simple as that, but that requires a level of political savviness, because a lot of people think to themselves, oh, well, it's a grant application. I really want to make sure that our organization is putting their best foot forward. I want to also be proactive. I want to be, responsive, and I want to make a really good impression with this prospective grantor. So why not reach out? There might be their rationale. That lacks political savviness, because the reality is that you're functioning within a system, a much larger, greater system that is not necessarily based on merit. It's based on relationships, especially if you're here in Texas. I cannot tell you how many times we've had fantastic, bulletproof grant applications that we put together for a client, and they still didn't get the grant. It's not about the writing. And that's the misnomer that I like to dispel and address in my book, Master Grant Writing and Project Manager's Guide. That's why I put the book together, because I wanted people to understand that from a project manager standpoint, there has to be an understanding of your spheres of influence and where you sit within the ecosystem. So you have to be able to leverage those individuals who are on the grantor level. You have to be able to leverage PMOs, for example. I like to call us an inter PMO. You have to be able to leverage the expertise and the relationships they have to be able to get you where you're trying to go as an organization. So there is a requirement there of political savviness, because you don't want to hurt yourself or hurt your organization before you've even gotten started. Okay. Now, the other piece here is the tools in their toolkit. So, of course, you're going to need to have the negotiation skills. If you want to have exponential growth, you have to be able to negotiate your price. Just for example, I know for us, that was one of the greatest challenges. If you're here on Zoom with us, go ahead now, get into your chat box. Let me know, if you're a woman, if you're a man in business, how many times have you said to yourself, did I charge them too little for the work that I did? How many times have you said that? Just put in the chat box a yes or a no. But have you ever asked yourself that question? Did I charge these people too much or too little for the work that I just did for them? I know for a lot of our mentees, especially, this is a conversation that we have, all the time. How much do I charge for my work? So you've got to have those negotiation skills, because you get to a price that makes sense after learning the lesson of doing the work, after having bid it too low or bid it too high, and losing the opportunity to leverage that for another year or another couple years, things of that sort. So you've got to have negotiation skills that are strong. Same thing for conflict management, right? From a conflict management standpoint, within the project management office, the inter PMO, as we like to call ourselves, what we like to do is we like to be sort of the outside auditor. So it's a friendly auditor, a person who can kind of come in and give you not only a more objective opinion of where you are on your programming or on your projects, but then also from a team and interpersonal level, be able to point out some of the things that we're seeing. Hey, Michael doesn't speak as much when you all call a meeting. Did you notice that? Or Anil, has a tendency when he comes into the meeting, or when she comes into the meeting, has a tendency to sort of cower, or back down when someone else begins to speak. Those are the types of things that we like to do. And then team is the other one that we talk about in our tools and our toolkit. As it relates to efficiency, we want to make sure that we're understanding who it is that's doing the work, what scope of the work are they doing, the aspects of the work that they're doing, are those things commensurate to the actual scope that we hired them to do, right? So some of the times, especially for interns, you'll see this a lot. These interns will come in And instead of them working really on the scope of work that is commensurate to their title and to their role within the organization, they tend to sort of, work on other projects that really should be for someone of a much higher, um, tier within the organization. So those are the types of things we like to be there to support with as well. And of course, influence. We already kind of touched that with the political savviness. Now I want to, here we go. I want to respect our time, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to the conclusion here. As we've talked before about the solution as it relates to your project management offices, we like to be able to come in and support with implementation. I like to compare the work of a project management office to the work of a classroom teacher. You teach two or more subjects. PMOs, like classroom teachers, are leaders with subject matter expertise who are as successful as they are trusted, incorporated, and knowledgeable about their client. Now, often the lines are going to be blurred for PMO leaders, just like they are in the classroom. So as teachers play the role of counselor or even parent, so too can PMO leaders play the role of a consultant or a contractor. You've got to be mindful of the blur there. All right, and so with that, I will go ahead and conclude and tell you all thank you so much for your time. I hope that you enjoyed the presentation. Look forward to talking again very soon.
Thank you so much, Juana. Thank you so much. We have learned so much from you today. Thank you. Thank you for your time.